Shane and Dave.
Yeah, I think the feedback we're getting is the folks online for the streaming need you to be close to the mic. And nice and loud. Yes, yes.
I speak for it. I think we speak loud. I might even need a microphone here.
Okay, so we're going to hear from Dave Madsen and from Shane Steele. Gentlemen, you have 2 minutes each to introduce yourselves, and then I will ask you several questions. You have 2 minutes to respond to each question. Again, you already decided who wants to go first, or who want to?
If I could go first.
Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Well, good evening, everyone. State Representative Dave Madsen, thank you so much for having us this evening. I look forward to sharing on our ideas on how to move the 104th Legislative District forward. I started off as an organizer for Governor Wolf, and I think he said it best with jobs that pay, schools that teach, and government that works. And that's the tenets that I work with every time I start a legislative session. It was talked about previously. We were able to get historic education funding to address inadequacies with public education. That is a big deal in our district with Steelton, Harrisburg, and Central Dauphin East. Jobs that pay, we're working around the clock. We have a steel mill in Steelton that closed, but we have Durabond that was attached to that. We worked with federal officials. We were able to save the jobs there, and now they are expanding to a second shift. So very proud of that work. And then on government that works, the best way you can make government work in your district is your legislative office and making sure you're providing excellent constituent services and helping folks with their LIHEAP, their rent rebate, and programs like that. I do want to take a moment and make it'll take 1 minute. Recently, the scourge of dark money came up in our district, and a group of folks sent out a negative mailer against my opponent. I want to make it abundantly clear. Shane, I respect you. I respect your service. I have nothing to do with that mailer, and I'm asking whoever did it to stop. I can win this campaign on my own with my record. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. The host of this event. My name is Shane Steele. I'm the current Sweater Township Commissioner. I'm a father of 5. I am also a husband. I've been a high school sweetheart. We've been together for 26 years. I'm a volunteer fire chief. I also sit on the sewer Township as a commissioner and as the chairman of the Stormwater and Sewer Authority. Right now, we have the highest number of police officers that we've ever had. As soon as I became chair of personnel, we immediately instituted what we would consider equal pay for women. We immediately promoted our first treasurer, female treasurer, in the history of Sweater Township over 250 years. We also promoted her as a director of the finance, the first one in the history of Sweater Township. The first directory for business privilege in the history of Sweater Township. We have currently 53 officers. We also instituted another K-9 program. Another thing that we did on the sewer authority is, for our stakeholders, save them over $1 million just because we kept costs in control. I was granted a stormwater authority that was insolvent. Currently, right now, that stormwater authority is solvent. We have not raised any rates on our residents. We have not raised any taxes on our residents, and we do not intend to. So that's just some of my record that I have obtained as being an elected official. One thing unique to the 104 for me is I grew up in the 104, so I'm from the 104. I've actually lived evicted house to house, whether it be in Harrisburg, whether it be in Steelton, whether it be in Sweater Township. So I'm actually a product of the 104. So for me, running for this position is out of necessity, because as we get further along in some of this discussion, you'll start to hear about the poverty rates, the education, the jobs. And our 104, whether it be Sweater Township, Steelton, Harrisburg, Lower Swatara, is hurting. And it's hurting in a bad way. I got to please wrap it up.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you for that. So the questions here are broken down by candidate. These are the ones that were given to me. And so, Shane, I will start with you. Cost of living. The majority of families and individuals in Pennsylvania are struggling to earn enough to maintain a decent standard of living while caring for their children and elderly adults. What policies or legislation would you advocate to address this?
These are not new issues. We consistently talk about jobs that pay, schools that teach, and government that works. Well, the government's not working in our favor. Year after year, we continue to talk about that. Our seniors are deciding whether or not they pay for their prescription versus a meal on the table. It's not working for us if our 20% poverty rate exists in the 104. It's not working for us when Harrisburg School District, 12% of the kids can read, 4% are proficient in science, and we're graduating at a 62%. That doesn't make sense. Help that makes sense. Then when you look at Stilton, who's encroaching upon 20% poverty as well, we just had a recent murder there. Their crime rate is through the roof. It's something that we need to address, and then we relate to the school. And we have rock star elected officials there. But here's the problem. It's not the government, it's the special interest of back elected candidates that is in our government that's hurting our government. And so I'm a grassroots candidate. So how do we fix it? We think that we can legislate our way out of this. We think we can throw money out of that. We've been doing that for the last 50 years, and nothing has changed. It's now time to regionalize and call to order the votes. That's why I'm here. I'm calling you to help me in the 104, the 60+ thousand residents. We're going to get our religious leaders, our community activists, our elected officials, and we're going to get together and create a caucus. And that caucus is no longer going to tolerate a government that doesn't work for us. Do we have to put forth some legislation and direct our money in other ways? Absolutely. I think we need to reevaluate our priorities and where we put our money. And then we can fix the education, then we can fix the poverty, and then we can fix the crime. But the rhetoric that is consistently spewed by elected officials, no matter if you're Republican or Democrat, has to stop, and we have to have real solutions in order to fix our problems. We can't keep talking about a government that doesn't work for us, schools that don't teach, and jobs that do not pay.
Okay, the next question is for you, and it's on data centers.
Okay.
Should the state put a moratorium on or ban new data centers? And related to that, should municipalities be able to limit their scope? And what do you see as the impacts on agriculture, water resources, and electric prices?
Yeah, so we had a big conversation about this in the State House, and the House Democratic majority passed a model ordinance just a few weeks ago, essentially providing guidelines for our municipalities to regulate data centers the right way. The truth is, you have to represent your area, but you also have to vote in consideration for the rest of the state. And I don't know what works in Erie. I don't know what works in Scranton. I rely on those representatives. But frankly, the truth is, there are some communities that do or are interested in data centers. So really, this has to come from the local level through zoning. What I would encourage everybody to do next year when their local officials come for school board or township supervisor or borough council is to update their zoning laws to reflect the values of that community. You can put a moratorium on data centers in your local community. But frankly, I don't think as a legislator we want to hamstring communities that are having to solve problems. We want to give them the toolkit. When I was on Harrisburg City Council for 5 years, I didn't appreciate when the state would take away our options. We want to give as many options to local communities so that they can problem solve. So that's what the model ordinance does. But I do think at some level, as a tri-county, we have to come together. We're tapping into the same grid, the same water system, and if everybody is doing it piecemeal, that could cause the utilities to go up. So I'm calling for a tri-county regional plan in addition to following the model ordinance. Thank you.
Okay, the next one's for you, and it's on money in politics. Currently,
The data center.
sorry, I'm just, this is what I got, man. Currently, there is no limit on donations to political candidates in Pennsylvania. One person could donate $1 billion if he or she wanted to. Do you support setting limits on political donations?
Absolutely. But I think the problem is bigger than that. The government was intended, the lobbyists to lobby the government should be the people, not special interests. And that's why we're in this problem. The largest special interest in this country should be the people that we serve, not special interests. So I think we need to design legislation, whether we utilize taxpayer funding for that, if they're okay with that, that each candidate only gets a specific amount of money, and that's it. And there are no donations from the engineers that you already have under contract, the architects that you already have under contract, and as well as your attorneys, because what happens, it's a sick, insane system. What they do is they get a government contract, whether at your local level, at your state level, or your federal level. And then what they do is they cipher millions of dollars out of your local government, let's use Stilton or Highspire or Habsburg, for instance. That's why they're in the bad financial situation they're in now. And then they'll kick 10%, 15%, 20% back to the incumbent's campaign to make sure they perpetually stay in office. That's another reason why you need term limits, so these special interests can't attach their claws to elected officials. So when it relates to money and politics, I think it doesn't mix. I think the people should be the one to lobby the government. And I'm going to touch real quick on the MPC data center because I think it needs to be. I don't believe in the state overreaching into local municipalities. Again, if you want a data center in your community and your elected officials are okay with that and you are okay with that as residents, that is your prerogative. If you don't agree with it, then lobby your local officials and say, we don't want this. The state to overreach within a municipal government that does want a data center, I think it's unfair. I don't think it's right. I think we set in place the municipal planning code for a reason. The state does not need to have overreach just as much as the federal government. We're seeing this now. The federal government's overreach into the state, and we're no longer a sovereign state. It's causing us issues. So that's my point. I know that wasn't my question, but I want to make sure I got that out there because it's about you at a local level. You're the controllers of what takes place in your community and to set the tone for your community, what you want your community to look like. Thank you.
Our last question is for you, Dave. As you know, there is a extreme shortage of affordable and available rental properties in Cumberland and Dauphin counties. A large percent of low-income households pay more than 50% of their income for rent, and elderly and disabled individuals dependent upon SSI are often unable to even rent a room for less than $650 a month. What ideas do you have to address the housing crisis?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I asked to serve on the Community and Housing Committee for a reason, because this was definitely on doors and going out into the community. The number one issue was the affordable housing crisis. The best way you can address affordable housing is by increasing the supply. Part of the problem that we're having as a region, it's a good problem to have in the sense is that we're growing. We're one of the fastest regions in Pennsylvania that's actually experiencing growth. When you look at areas that are stagnant or shrinking, those areas are really struggling. So we're having jobs. People want to come here and they want to live here, but we do not have the demand of housing to meet that supply, and that is driving up the prices. One of the first things I did is I worked with Mayor Sierra Denton Steelton because we had codes officers coming out and inspecting homes, and they should be condemned, but they were still, slum landlords were renting out these properties. So we drafted legislation that would crack down on slum landlords doing this and make tenants whole. It passed the House, it passed the Senate Housing Committee, which the Senate, one-seat majority in the House, Senate majority with Republicans. Not easy to do. The governor recently announced it's a top priority for him to get it done this legislative cycle, and we're hoping to get it done. It is waiting for the Senate to vote. That was a Herculean effort, and we were able to get it done. So it's increasing the supply, looking at reforms so that we can cut red tape so that housing can grow, but then also holding those bad actors accountable that are preying on those vulnerable in our community.
Thank you, gentlemen. Excellent job. Let's hear it one more time for the community.